When you're seriously injured, it's not just the physical toll it takes on you and your family, but it can also be mentally debilitating, which is why I want to highlight and explain pain and suffering compensation, and hopefully we'll establish whether you're eligible. Having worked in personal injury law for over 15 years, I've seen firsthand the devastating impact of an injury and the value in utilising pain and suffering compensation to help people get their life back on track. Now, in order to determine whether you're eligible, you must first understand what pain and suffering compensation is. Pain and suffering compensation, also referred to as general damages or non-economic loss, is a lump sum amount awarded to compensate you for the harmful impacts the injury has had on you both physically and mentally. Whether you're eligible for pain and suffering compensation largely depends upon your type of claim. If you've been injured in a car accident, you have to have greater than 10% whole person impairment. What is whole person impairment? That's just a technical term that doctors use to measure the permanent damage the accident caused you both physically or mentally. Once you're assessed over 10%, it's then up to a judge or assessor to determine the payout amount. This is obviously very subjective, which is why it's very important to have a lawyer who is not only a specialist, but more importantly, willing to get to know you and your situation to best represent how the injury has impacted on your life overall. When it comes to pain and suffering compensation for public liability or medical negligence cases, eligibility isn't determined by doctor's assessment of whole person impairment, but rather an assessment by the judge on how the injury has impacted on your life and comparing that to a most extreme case. Now, in order to qualify, your circumstances need to be assessed as at least 15% of a most extreme case. As you can imagine, this is once again very subjective, and the level of client care you receive from your lawyer will have a huge impact on the amount of compensation you're awarded. For example, we recently won a case for a woman who had a serious leg injury from a fall at a train station. We brought a public liability claim for her, and when it came time to assessing pain and suffering, we pointed out to the judge that she had a son with a disability. This meant that the injury impacted on her more than one might normally expect. Taking this into consideration and all the other aspects of the case, the judge awarded her over $200,000 in compensation for pain and suffering alone. This was a big help in allowing her and her son to move on from the injury. Hopefully this has been helpful to you, but if you're still unsure about pain and suffering or need help with your claim, call Law Partners and have a confidential conversation with one of our specialist lawyers today.